Okay. Hi guys, how you going?
I
Hi. I've got a, what have I got to do? Share the screen. Uh, I'm going to share the screen, and I'm also going to share the sound because where I want to. Oh, it's already sharing the sound. Okay. So, where I want to start is I did this little thing yesterday where I went over and visited my 87-year-old neighbor, and my 87-year-old neighbor told me a very funny story, which I'm going to play for you whilst I show you some pictures. I might pause it a couple of times just to explain for people that haven't really heard of the concept before, right? So, this lady is called Marjorie Rainbow, and she's a very, very talented individual. Um, she's written a book called Letters to Grandma that's lovely. It's based upon an 8-year-old boy who enthusiastically writes letters to his grandmother about his life. And it's a lovely book. I mean, it is for sale. I'll give you a link for it. It's $30.99 to buy. Um, Up to you guys. I'm not saying you should buy it or anything like that. This is not the purpose of this interview. That's probably wrong. Yes, you should buy it.
just buy it. It's going
Just
to be
buy
great.
it. Just buy it. It's
Just buy
great.
it.
Sorry.
But that's not
Um,
that was what you had intended. It's just
no,
that's not what you're
no.
sharing. It's such a lovely story and but yeah, if people are interested in buying it, it looks like a really beautiful book.
Yeah. So the purpose of this was actually to had this conversation with my neighbor yesterday, and I'm playing the conversation now. I can't change the format for some unknown reason, so I'm just going to play. Right. Here okay. Hi guys, Kim here. I'm here with my beautiful neighbor who's called Margie, and Margie is 87 years old, and she was telling me this funny story about the night cart man. Now, apparently,
In New Zealand.
and she grew up in New Zealand. Oh, he's not even grown up at this stage.
Yeah.
She was. So it's a story about the night cart man, and it was basically these houses used to have outdoor toilets, outdoor WCs, and people used to have to run down the garden. You didn't know about that, Ginger? You didn't have that?
I've never seen like anything like this. It's such an interesting. Well, I mean, we've had outhouses, but I've never seen them lined up like this, and I'd never heard of what you're about to share.
Okay, all right. So basically, there was the night cart man was the man that came around and collected this stuff. So the story is about that. It's a true story. So I'm going to press play again.
I did.
Yeah, I know you did,
I
but
was married and
you were married, so
and widow. Oh, after
I
this.
know.
Yeah.
So the night cart man story is a story about the guy that used to come and take the tin from the outdoor dunny. So she had an outdoor dunny outside of her house, and a guy would come every fortnight to take away, collect the bin and give her a new one. So, all right, over to you, Margie.
What? Okay.
Okay,
Ask the question.
ask the question.
My late husband.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. My late husband's hobby was writing funny stories and making home brew, which was very nice, by the way. The night cart man called every second Monday night to empty our long drop toilet, and at Christmas he left a note to wish us Merry Christmas along with the bill, which was quite high. My husband couldn't resist writing this in reply. He left an envelope with this little poem that he thought up, attached to a couple of bottles of his own home brew. So we waited for him to empty the toilet and watched from behind the curtains. That was, I should have put the nightcap man there. He had his headlamp on and a huge smile on his face. Here is the poem. Here's a wish that all my piss could turn to flowing beer. If all my turds could turn to words that express a happy new year. Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Margie. That's the story of the nightcap
I
man.
hope it gives somebody a smile.
I think it's very good. Right, so that was Margie next door. And like I said,
It really made me smile. I loved it.
she's a real sweetheart. She's she's a brilliant artist, really creative writer. She's had a really interesting life, and I spend quite a lot of time with her and Eric, and they tell me lots of little stories. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start recording them.
I think that's great, Kim. Love it.
Yeah, when they say, it's going to social, they'll get used to it more and more with the flow. So anyway,
And maybe start to think of some really good stories to tell you as you start to create this habit. They'll start to think of the more wonderful stories to bring to your attention.
yeah.
I think it's really great. I love that. I'd never heard of the nightcap man before, but it struck me that this might be the wealthiest person in the village. Coming to picking it up from one, charging you to pick it up, and probably selling it out the other end.
Yeah, it just said this story of this thing this webpage I brought up, and that was what it was talking about. Selling the sewage as compost. But
Well,
this is actually set in New Zealand. This is
what are you
actually
going to do with it? You probably sell it.
this story here is about 1961, which is the year I was born. Photograph of an outhouse in Auckland backyard. Could have been taken decades earlier. Outhouses were usually separated from the main house. I would say that's because of the smell.
Yes.
But anyway, right. So that was the nightcap man. So we're going to go on to talk about two things. Well, we're going to talk about lots of things, but the next thing we're going to talk about is we've been talking a bit about the only conversation really to have at the moment is about having a creative conversation, because there's so much over information out there and you don't know if what you're saying is true. So if you're having a conversation, say, about something that's meant to be factual or scientific or something, and then somebody comes over and says, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I say, well, actually, I don't think it's that way. I think it's blah, blah, blah. But actually, neither of us actually can quote the source by which we came up with that information. And
well, sometimes you don't even remember where you got that notion. Like, where did I ever come up with it?
Wait, where did I hear that?
Yeah.
Where did I read that? Was that in school or was it? And I also, I mean, you and I are old, so
where it came from. It's all dreamland.
so what I'm figuring is that the only conversation at the moment worth having is something on a creative level. So let's do something with what we've got. I mean, all these gifts that we've got, this world at our fingertips, right? So then Ginger and I were talking about
Get out of analysis paralysis.
utilizing our senses, utilizing our senses in a more effective way, more mindfully. And then we were talking about a conversation as to how to bring to the forefront what our strongest senses are. And then we were talking about it in the format of, say that somebody comes up and knocks at your door. You've got a complete stranger standing there, you don't know anything about them. So you first of all might listen to what they have to say, and they could give away the idea that if they're authentic and the type of person that you want to have a conversation with, or the reverse of that, that they're not an authentic person and you really don't want to borrow them. So you would sense that by, say, your five senses, by listening to what they've got to say, which would be clairaudient, sensing their energy, which might be a really kind of like vague thing, but you'd be
It's a
actually,
feeling.
it's
It's
a
a
feeling,
feeling.
a sense, a feeling. Is this man angry? Is he pushy? Is he bullying me? Is he, you know what I mean? Like all of those things he kind of assessing at that time. So you've
Well,
got,
and sometimes you might encounter somebody who's incredibly sad and you sit near them and then you suddenly feel incredibly sad because it's
yeah,
an energy. And it's like their auric field is mixing with yours and you don't know necessarily why suddenly this sadness comes over you.
I had a, I went to the markets this morning and something happened to me and I got really angry, but it was a weird anger. It was like an impatience. It was like I wasn't getting served fast enough, or and it overcame me. And suddenly I was in a hurry, and I had no reason to be in a hurry. And suddenly I was really angry because people were getting in my way, and I wanted to get round them. And I'm suddenly going, where did that come from? Where did I pick up where did I pick up the hurry thing? Who who injected that into me? You know, like because I had to come from somebody around me because I was fine. And then I'm standing at this market stall and I'm getting all grumpy because people are standing in my way.
Something
Why?
something got under your skin, something irritated you, something made you feel that way. I want it makes sense when you think about it. That saying, under my skin, it got under my
It
skin.
got under my skin and I don't know what it was, but I was all right after I recognized it. I thought, right, calm down, Kim. You got nothing to be in a hurry about. Just let these people do get on with what they're doing and don't be irritated. So anyway, so
These
you
are
got
you have those kinds of moments. You have to really stop and wonder, like, what the heck? I was doing so well, and then suddenly, I think we respond accordingly. I can recall a couple of situations, just tra la la, having a great day. Go to the bank, the teller's in a mood. Next thing you know, you're in a mood.
yeah,
And it's like, ugh, why did I come in here? It's just like, get it off of me, get that off of me. And I use water, take it off. And I use the intention of using the water to get that energy off of me.
yeah.
Or, like sage or something else that's really aromatic and change the energy.
So anyway, so where were we? Claire sentient, Claire audient, which is listening. Then you've got Claire cognizant, which is awareness. That's being
The
cognitive.
knowing.
That's a knowing.
Yeah,
That's like,
knowing.
oh my God, this guy standing in front of me is a pervert. Or
I don't know how I know, but I trust my instincts.
yeah,
You
okay,
might
so
hear,
that's
I don't know how I know, but I trust that
yeah,
knowing.
okay. Then you've got Claire voyant, which is seeing, which is I mean the guy's got a shifty eye or something, or he keeps on
Well, I think
he can't have
that they're remote.
eye contact with you.
Here you've got remote viewing, I think. This is where you can actually visualize where somebody lives, what they're doing. You can describe them to a T. And who says that we can't? And who says that we can't look into the other realms and see with great clarity what's happening? I believe some of us can.
Okay. So have we got any others? So we got clairaudient, clairsentient, claircognizant,
We're missing,
clairvoyant. We're missing what's the
we're,
smelling one?
we're seeing here. Oh, I guess, yeah.
Is it supposed to
Seeing,
be
hearing,
smelling, touching?
knowing.
Clair, is there a
Uh,
clair
oh,
feeling? Oh,
well, it's
that
endless when you think of it, with the pendulum, it's another way. Like it's all about reading energy, and it's with the clairs, it's about tuning into the body's ability to become that pendulum.
okay. So then the conversation we were having this conversation before, the conversation led into the amount of people who say that they're psychic or whatever, but they follow up that up with, and I do this sometimes, with I can't do it for myself.
Yes,
Like I can't, I'm not really very effective at reading my own cards.
I
Um,
think because we're in the habit of analyzing other people.
yeah.
Like we're watching for danger, we're watching for love, we're sensing and feeling for a lot of different things at once.
Hmm.
And so we're in that habit, but we're not necessarily in the habit. And we talk about this a lot, Kim, of what do I need? We're not asking, what do I need? What's right for me? What path should I take? Show me me. we haven't really taken very good care of ourselves. And with that, this I think is why it's so easy for us to read others, but yet we're blind when it comes to who's on the other side of the door.
Because we haven't been tapping into that energy for our own purposes enough.
That's
We haven't
correct.
been reading that energy for our own purposes. And this is where one of the conversations that we had, and I don't know how far I go into this, but I've been acutely aware in the last few weeks that I'm getting better at identifying narcissism and actually dealing with it.
Yes.
So
Well,
I've got to a stage now where when it happens, I can actually say to that individual, hang on a second, where was I talking about you in that? Why are you angry? I didn't even mention your name, or I wasn't talking about you, it's talking about me. And suddenly we're talking about you. So a classic example of that is you saying to somebody, I'm going to do blah, 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 and they go, but I'm not well today.
yeah.
And you
What's that
go,
got to do?
with
What I've got to do with, like, I'm sorry you're not well, but wait, what? Why are we talking about this now?
why are we talking about you? Because we were talking about me a second ago.
Yeah.
So that type of awareness in the moment where you suddenly become aware that it's switched and it's about them again. And hold on, we weren't talking about you, we were talking about me. Why did that happen? And then it's an awareness, and I'm not having to go at anybody in particular. If anybody's
No.
listening to this and
Yeah.
saying, well, you're talking about me,
You're right.
well, that's their stuff, because I'm
Yeah,
not talking about
that's the whole point
individuals.
of talking about it, is that people are projecting onto us all the time,
Right.
what's really going on in their own inner world. It's been
Yeah.
a long time since I've taken any of that personally.
Yeah.
I can see that for what it is, but you're right, Kim. It's about becoming more aware of, I don't know if narcissist is the right word,
No.
but I think it's overly used. And I think that what we've got there is that crossing of energies again. It's the crossing of energies. So wait, you just came into my world. Well, my world includes only me. And now I'm supposed to think of somebody else. Again, not in the habit.
But it's also this identifying of this uncomfortable suppression feeling that somebody else is trying to invoke on you because
Yes.
they are uncomfortable with what you're doing because it embarrasses them. And you're going,
Yes.
what?
Well, and we want to keep our comfort zone. I think for
Uh,
me, like as I started to make a lot of discoveries, people wanted to keep me exactly where I was.
yeah, that's what I'm
They,
talking about.
yeah, they didn't like the idea that I wasn't going to be doing what I've always been doing. They
Yeah,
didn't like the idea that I was going to move on and do something
yeah,
else.
yeah, yeah.
You know, So there's a great amount of discomfort in change for some people, where stagnation is actually, oh, I don't think it's very comfortable space at all. I think it's quite dangerous space.
Okay, so
But those people who are in such in stagnant waters and not being creative and not being mobile, well, um, they're threatened by you.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It's a very uncomfortable experience for them.
So you brought up another matter where you were talking about watching this interview between Marianne Williams and Roseanne. And you were saying, I'm going over to you here because I'd like you to talk about that interview and that process and what came out of it.
We were talking about memory slips and how annoying that can be. And I'd seen an interview with Roseanne Barr and Marianne Williamson, who, by the way, is the author of Course of Miracles. And she is also apparently a presidential candidate. I don't buy into the whole, that whole narrative about elections and such. I know that it's very real for a lot of people, but I see it as quite a theater. Regardless, I liked the interview between Roseanne and Marianne. And at one point, Roseanne was quite animated and sharing her point of view about something, and then lost her stream of thought. Her memory slipped, and she became quite embarrassed. And oh no, I hate it when that happens. And her avatar sunk. It went from being very lively to shoulders slumped. And Marianne Williamson was very quick to respond and say, I heard or somebody talk about this recently, and loved what they had to share. They said that as we get older, you know, people see it as a negative, that we lose our memory and that we forget things. What if it's a positive? What if we've just filtered out all that useless crap that we didn't really need to begin with and made room for wisdom?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because, you know, with the gray hair and the wrinkles, you know,
Yeah.
it is a bit of a trade-off, right? Like
Yeah.
as we age, we've learned a lot, you
Yeah.
know. So, and I mean, a lot of this purging and clearing and all of this work that we do to become more spiritual, it's actually about detaching from the
Mm,
stuff that doesn't matter.
mm,
What
mm,
really matters, you
mm,
know? As we get older, it less and less matters. Our lives become much simpler, I find, and it
mm.
allows us to go more into the mystical side
Okay.
and become wiser.
I agree. I agree. And the other thing is that I often prefix when I'm talking about something and then I go, "Oh, I can't remember what I was going to say." I go, "Oh, well, maybe I wasn't meant to tell you that anyway." And
Yes.
the other thing that's been happening quite a lot lately that's really quite unique is if we get onto a subject, and this happened to you and me the other night, if we get onto a subject that we don't need to talk about it, our connection gets icky.
Oh, I
Like
know.
like we
We've
start
been
dropping out
absolutely
and stuff.
cut off, like no contact, like it's been canceled signal.
Yeah. And it's like, oops, we can't talk about that subject.
Moving
So that's
on.
kind of
And
really
we do really
interesting.
acknowledge that and just sort of move on quickly, don't we? We just accept that that's not for us.
Okay, there's something else that there's a couple of things that we did talk about. Well, you're not expecting these subjects, but one we talked about a little bit, which was when I was a kid, a lot of the movies and a lot of the consciousness was fixed on the future. So a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of the movies you watched were based upon, I don't know, 60 years from now, and all the kitchens were shining white, and all the people had like shiny white, everything was shiny and white. And
Yes.
if you look at the trend of where we're at now, and you look at the sharp clean, I was looking at real estate yesterday, and you look, everything's like really bland, colorless, no clutter. Like it, it's like we've arrived at the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Back to the future. You know, we've gone full circle back to everything is pristine white again around here. I mean, it's a very trendy
Yeah,
thing. It's been pretty trendy for a few years, it feels.
it
And
ha but it's very minimalistic now.
yes, and white again, like you were saying, right back to where we started. We wouldn't have had
White
much back,
kitchens now.
very white. And but once upon a time, we didn't have cabinets. We would have, if we moved, we would have taken the cabinets with us.
Yeah. So
You know, they were portable.
just
And so
with
just cleaning it up, fresh
sorry.
coat of paint, that's probably pretty common, like back in the day, keep it simple, right?
So with this white world that we're living in, right? Does that mean that we've arrived at the future? And do you notice how few of the movies, or that not that I'm really in tune with today's world much. I'm not really in tune with the latest movies, or other than maybe the main ones like the latest Avatar movie, or that's about it. I think that's the only movie I've seen this year that came out this year.
Avatar.
Hmm. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't watch. I really fall asleep. They put me right to sleep. I
Yeah,
don't think I'm supposed to watch it. It's again one of those things where I'm not allowed to connect to this stuff.
yeah,
It
yeah.
really again gets under my skin, and I don't get to sit through much of it.
Okay.
So it's just hasn't been for me for a long time, very
So
long
we're
time.
no longer focusing on the future. It's like we're focusing on the present more. It's like all the movies, or all the intents I have are related to now. Like like the I don't know, like what's maybe what's going on in the world, or what how we've been affected by stuff, but it's all present. Everything's about the present. So it's like the gift. It's like
It is a gift.
we are in the gift, and it just this realization that that word present is a gift, and that
Oh yeah.
now is the gift rather than I'll be happy when the future happens. Actually embracing what's going on right now and saying, actually, this is quite exciting. This is
Yeah,
quite
this is good.
exciting.
I'm gonna stay right where I'm at. Why would I want to go back to the future or, you know,
Yeah,
back to the
yeah,
past, or why would I want to be anywhere else? And it's all happening right now. So this conversation has become quite big, I think, for a lot of us. Whereas I think a lot of cultures, they already knew this. They've
yeah,
always known this. They didn't have the influences and the propaganda that we've had. We have been a real big social experiment and
I-
very easily manipulated.
yeah, I agree.
The color white, I'd like to touch on that a little bit, Kim, a little more, because like the white light, I don't know. The white light, people see it as like the almighty. And I don't know. We come from the darkness.
Well,
So
I
what is
mean,
that?
I
The
always think
extreme
that
opposite
that
where
the
we came from.
darkness is actually much more fun than the light in a lot of ways because the darkness is kind of fun. It's like where you get frightened and where you get like you think about horror movies, you think about, like when the lights go off, you oh my God, what am I gonna do now? How am I gonna find a way around? Like, oh shit, anything could happen. Actually,
Oh,
I'll tell you a funny story about that. Many years ago, I was staying 10 years ago, maybe I was with my aunties and my sister in this beautiful apartment in Bali. We'd had this fabulous apartment, and it had a river running through the middle of it, and a bridge, and a river running right the way through the middle of the living room, with a bridge in the middle of the living room and a dining table on the other side, right? And it had this big circular table with this sort of like big circular sofa around, and we were all sitting around this big sofa, and we had a power cut. And one of my aunties remembered that there was a big candle on this table. So she went to get the big candle, but she missed the bridge. And she ended up falling into the river in the middle of the living room in the dark. It's actually really funny because it's like there was about six of us, and we're all trying to find her in this river and help her out with this river. I don't know what. I don't know why that was funny, but it was like, oh my God, oh my God. And like I said, it happened in the dark. So it makes you all in stitches of laughter because you cannot find this person who's fallen into the river in the middle of the living room.
true.
All
Why are
right.
we so afraid? Why are we so afraid of the dark? Like you said, it's more fun there.
Yeah.
Like and this is where we come from. This is the womb is dark. I don't recall any light in there.
Yeah.
It's a dark
Exactly.
it's like even to be underwater, it's usually dark,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's a great place of creativity.
Okay.
People disappear from the darkness and attach to the light. And I have to wonder, as we enter the light upon death, to me, the light is death, and the dark is a place of birth.
Hmm. Well, I know that. I mean, now somebody said to me the other day, oh yeah, I'm gonna have my baby on the 22nd of October at 10 a.m.
Oh,
I go, how do you know that?
it's become quite a common thing. I know what you're going to touch on. Carry on, Kim. But
Uh,
it's kind of a disturbing trend, if you ask me.
yeah, and I go like, really? Yeah, like you know it down to the minute. Like, wow, have you looked at the astrology of that? Was
Well, the
that
science has
choose
taken over
choose your own
the natural
choose your own astrology chart? Oh wow, if
influence.
I if I if I leave it an hour later, Jupiter moves into, you know what I mean? Like, or if I leave it till the next day, it's better for me astrologically. But
Well,
also
that
it's
they're not
it
choosing the dates quite carefully about what day we all arrive. Like that's really talk about genetics, talk
yeah,
about manipulation talk about manipulating genetics,
I
because
know.
I do sense that the energies around us play a tremendous influence on our appearance, our health, our mental and spiritual well-being.
Yeah,
It's our whole package, and it's determined by the moment of our arrival.
yeah,
And
agree.
for people to bring with that, I think is quite a dangerous trend.
And
And
then
they're doing
on
it through
top of that,
they're telling the women, oh, if anything were to go wrong, we'd like to have you in an environment where we're prepared for that.
yeah.
Huh?
And the other
What?
thing is that surely the natural thing, like a tree reaches towards the light, and its growth pattern is to reach out, and that's part of creativity. It's actually reaching for itself. Like you're teaching that tree how to fish rather than giving it a fish, it's reaching out for itself. And the same for the baby being born, it's reaching out towards the light. It's looking up and it's going, oh my goodness, there's the light at the end of the tunnel. I've got to reach for that. I've got to strive towards it. I've got to help mum here. We're working in unison. We're working with nature. Or it's
Right.
like, okay, we'll just do a cut in the stomach and like, I'm
Yeah.
out in the light. What was that? Like, how did that happen? That's a shock. I,
Nothing
I
natural.
there's no transition between. It's like the rite of passage has been completely cancelled out, and maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe it has absolutely no effect at all. It's just where my thinking's gone.
That's where my thoughts are, Kim, too. It's a disturbing trend. When I heard you talk about that in Australia, and I know it's quite a common thing here in Canada, all of
Yeah,
a sudden, like since 2020,
yeah,
it's been a much more controlled environment.
yeah.
And I guess my thought is, well, when are they available to do this? Only on certain dates?
Mm, mm,
Who's choosing these dates
mm.
and why? Because it is an energy that they're manipulating, I feel.
Yeah. Okay. So then the other conversation that I didn't tell you we were going to talk about today is we did this like little list a few weeks ago, and we were looking at the spelling of the planets.
Yes,
And we did you are and us, which was Uranus. It's spelled like URAN. You are and us.
you're an us.
You
You
are
are
and
an us.
us. Like who's playing with these titles of these planets? And when they originally made up these names for these planets, did they really mean that you are and us?
Well, I think that some of these planets were a little more recently named, maybe. I don't know, somebody with a terrific sense of humor.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
as we uncover some of these words,
I
I
know.
mean, yeah,
It's like,
have to
what?
laugh, and it's
Okay.
so obvious. How did we not see it before?
So Neptune, like the tune, the any tune with a P in it,
Neptali. Neptali came to mind for me. Neptali, I think she's one of the Egyptian goddesses.
right?
Neptali,
Okay.
that's to mind for me.
Nefertiti.
And the two
What about
Nefertiti,
Nefertiti?
or
And
the Neptune,
Nep
the
Nep
Neptune.
Neptune, which is a song, a tune, a
Yes,
song, which is the universe, of
obviously.
course. The universe is one song,
Yes.
um, which is
Oh,
united. And then you've got Neptune in there, so it's got any tune will do. Right. So then we've got Saturn, and then you and I had I don't know about Saturn. I mean, we went into you are earning your way, paying your taxes, earning, Saturn.
you'll earn it.
Uh,
URN, like a
yeah,
container, your
yeah,
ashes.
earn your ashes, yeah. And sat on your ass. Um, seated, SAT, SAR, and what SAR rings to mind. All right, and then we move on to Mercury, and then we
That's
broke
after.
Mercury down. It's me, cure, you are why. I thought that was a kind of cool one. I'm curing you.
Made me think,
Why?
that made me think of Madame Curie, Mercury,
Who,
Madame
who,
Curie,
who's Madame Curie?
Wasn't she one of the creators of penicillin?
Don't know.
I'm not sure now. She was one of those original scientists.
Okay. Yeah,
I think of
I
them
mean,
as
they play with like
books.
titles like Mother Shipton. I once to look at Mother Shipton's name, and I saw Mothership. That was an alien.
Yeah. Yes.
Mothership. I mean, like what? So, and then we've got Venus. So, you had a few things to say about Venus, didn't you?
Well,
Like
because I see it, the
Venus.
venous system, the veins that attach, I don't know, the blood
Oh,
supply. So
one
yeah,
sec.
the veins, the Venus, it's supposedly Taurus, the bull, the money, the veins. Um, it's vain, to be vain, Venus. I don't know. Venomous.
The what?
People say it's all love and beauty. Well, you and I have questioned that word love a number of times.
Yeah.
And, I appreciate the sentiment and the thought behind it, but I'm not so sure about the word. The word has always made me a little uncomfortable, if I'm being honest.
It's too
And
generic.
yeah,
Covers too many things, and it's not really clear because love it's such a fluid subject,
adore.
and it's very, very personal. I mean, depending on what you saw as a child and the way your father showed love to your mother, I mean, it depends on whether or not he showed it through buying her flowers or buying her something, or he showed it through caressing her, or he showed it through whatever his expression of love was, would be then passed on to us, and then that would be our expression of love.
That's true. For me, it's the word more than anything. It's yeah, it just feels uncomfortable. And again, it's one of those clear cognizant moments where it's just a knowing. I don't have any further. I can't expand on it. It's just a feeling. Again, I guess it's a clairsentient then.
Yeah.
Feeling about that word.
Okay. So on my way back from the markets this afternoon, I've just completely jumped ship here, and I shouldn't maybe do this because I'm hijacking the whole because I want to come back to that because I haven't finished the planets. But I was coming back
Hmm.
from the markets today, and I come back on the ferry, on the boat, and I'm sat next to this young lady with two very small children. Her and the baby was like anxious, and we were talking about what signs the kids were and whether or not they portrayed those behaviors, and they did. And we got to talking about her being a single parent. And I
Yes.
mean, they were only babies. One was maybe 6 months old, and the other one was maybe 18 months old, just babies. And and she was saying she was a single parent. And I said, wow, you established that quickly. And she said, you would be amazed at the number of single parents out there.
Again, another
Um,
trend. There's a great trend to empower the women and to, keep your boot on the neck of the men. The men, most men are not able to speak about feelings and things like that. It shows a sign of weakness, whereas women are strongly encouraged, and somehow men are responsible for our feelings. Do you see the power that we have? And then I think a lot of the singledom comes from this trend of really um, bashing men, bashing men.
maybe.
And
I mean,
also, I know that
she
there's
just said that
that this is
there was no
to
place for
get
them in this
the
world.
rest of my life. Hey,
There was
no place for men.
no place for men in this world. That
What
was
the
the word
hell?
she used.
And
There
I
was no.
wouldn't be here without a man. I mean, what the
Oh,
heck? Who
you're
says that?
surrounded by them. You've got old men
I
around
am
you
surrounded by
everywhere.
them. I wouldn't, none of us would be here were it not for our men,
Yeah.
and the way we treat our men is, we wouldn't tolerate that if men were treating us like that. And I do know that the women perceive this very downtrodden history, but I think that we've had a lot more control than we realized. I
Yeah.
think that we've always been told that we're powerless, and meanwhile, we're quite powerful. And it's a misuse of power. I feel on both sides, you know, men and women. Relationships are quite a tricky thing. And maybe it's a more natural flow for women to have full control over the children. But I think that it's important for children to be around men.
Yeah, me too. I mean, they're missing out on half the learning how to fish, aren't they?
Well, or, you know, so if mom can teach you how to fish, that's fine. But, you know, dad's energy is going to be naturally quite different than mom's.
Well, not
And I think
they're much better fishermen.
yeah, well, I won't argue. I mean, I think there's probably a great amount of truth in that, Kim, you know, because they've certainly given more attention to it than most women. But I mean, it's not that I fish. I mean, I know I can if I need to. I don't choose to. I don't want to.
All
I
right,
think this is it. You can
I'm
do a lot of things. Do we really want to walk alone? And is like, what is influencing that? I think medium over everything.
I agree. I mean, it's huge. I mean, for her to say, I mean, those kids are little. For her to have already established that the relationship's over, and she's
Now
got two
flip the script.
babies.
Look at it from dad's point of view. He now has two babies that he's likely financially responsible for forever and ever, that he
Mm,
may or may not get to see
mm,
at the whim of a woman who might be quite emotional.
mhm,
Let's face it, I've known a lot of terribly illogical and highly emotional females,
mhm,
you know, and I don't think that we make the best bosses in certain situations, you
mhm.
know, especially if we are feeling if we're not at our strongest.
All right, I'm going to come back to the planets again because we only got as far as Venus. Excuse
Venus
me.
and Venus. It was the Venus.
Venus.
It was my fault. We went off path. But
Oh,
yeah, the Venus comes to mind. And the word love. So love and beauty represents Venus. And I question the word love.
okay. Yeah, well, I'm with you. So Earth. So Earth's like eat, ear,
Yeah. Yeah. Eve.
art, and then the anagram heart. So hearts at the heart of Earth. You've got art, which is creation, which I love. The fact that the middle three letters of the word Earth are A-R-T. I mean, that's beautiful, and that
Agree.
that to me shows what it's all about. If we're on this earth, then it's all about art. And I'm not talking about getting a pencil and drawing a picture. Um, I mean, I'm talking from a point of view that I was somebody that did not have any artistic ability at all until I reached my 40s or my 50s. I couldn't, I couldn't draw anything. And you wouldn't believe what I drew I'm going to show you what I drew the other day. I drew something really, I think I showed you, did I? The elephant.
You've really developed some wonderful talents, Kim. And
Did I,
like, who would have known at 40 that you had all these suppressed and hidden talents? I think it's great.
did I show you the, I didn't, I didn't show you
I don't think
the, okay,
think you did.
how do I do that? I showed you this. I'll show you guys this. Right.
That's pretty.
Wow. This is a snake in my friend's house and it made itself into a doorknob. You probably have to zoom into that to have a look at it, but it disguised itself as a door hook on the cupboard. But if you
Well,
look at
this is a real snake.
the real snake,
Real snake. I thought it was somebody handcrafting a special handle around with. Are you kidding? It's a real snake.
it's a real snake.
Uh,
I just came in and go like, what the hell is that on the handle of my door? And it's like this brown copper snake. And
that's terrible.
he caught it and he lassoed it. He had this piece of hollow thing and he lassoed its neck around the neck and he carried it out the house like that. And they live on acreage and he released it in the acreage and 10 minutes later it found its way back into the house.
It's quite cozy there.
Yeah.
They
But
say build your house where the snakes live. So I guess because the snakes are supposedly so wise, right? Wise as serpents. So they say build your house where the snakes live. So it could be a sign of good fortune.
give me 1 second. I'm leaving you with it. I'm just gonna go and grab my phone 1 sec.
Yeah, that's okay. Wow, I didn't realize that was a real snake, Kim. I was looking at that as very artistic piece. I thought, wow, isn't that really neat? I think I love people's creativity, and now you're telling me that's a real snake. Insane. I don't know how I could, I don't think I could live in places where snakes did that. I have a lot of snakes around me in the garden, and I always exaggerate and say, they were this big, 10 times the size of the actual snake. But it is quite shocking when you're just sort of wandering along and then suddenly there's a snake. Yeah. I remember going on a walk once and the person that I was walking with wanted to look for snakes. And I said, oh boy, I hope we don't find any. Well, they didn't find any. Meanwhile, I was seeing them everywhere and I didn't dare let on because I thought they're going to take these snakes and try to scare me.
Mm.
So I wouldn't let on until we came out of the path. And I said, I can't believe you didn't see. And I mean, they were everywhere. They were everywhere. This area was known for snakes. He couldn't find them. He was searching, couldn't find them. I saw them hanging from trees. I saw them hanging on the rails. There was a nice wooden walkway. I saw them everywhere. And he didn't. He went back down the trail to find them after after we exited because I wouldn't tell him when I was down there what I was seeing. He found plenty when he went back, but for some reason he couldn't see them at all. I was so grateful. Maybe I cast a spell.
I missed the story. So sorry, because I had to take my headset off because I'll go and wander around,
Hey,
go walk
catch it
about.
on the
Right. I
you
just
can
think
catch it on the replay.
right. So what I was going to show you is this. I couldn't draw at all. Like if I
You
drew,
did show me that.
I did
Yes,
show
you
you that.
did. Oh my gosh.
And
Gorgeous.
I I borrowed this little ornamental elephant off this friend of mine that I just saw on a sideboard and went, can I borrow that? Because I really fancy drawing it. So it's like I'm not showing you this to boast. I'm just saying that here's a person
Look what you did.
10
Yeah.
years ago that couldn't draw. And then suddenly, and it's because it like hits you as an energy. You look at something and you go, oh, I'd like to draw that because it's really pretty. It appeals to me. And I walked away with this elephant in my handbag and I was making a bit of a joke out of the fact that I was stealing an elephant. And then I came home and I just sat down and I just drew this elephant. And I'm going like, how the hell did I do that? Because 10 years ago, I couldn't draw at all. Where did that come from? And the question is that
The belief that you couldn't. So suddenly you believed that you could. You decided to try. And once we open ourselves up, curiosity, you know, I
and
wonder
get
when we
rid of the
start to
critic. Get rid of the
get rid of the
critic.
critic. Yeah, you shut up. I'm gonna do it. You watch me.
Yeah, yeah. So on that note, right, I just want to move on to something that we touched on earlier, you and I, which is we've been playing the last few days with Chat GPT, which is for those of you that don't know what it is, and you probably have heard of it because it's quite around in conversations at the moment. But Chat GTP is a program where AI writes the story for you. You just put keywords in, and it'll make up an entire story for you. Um, and it's going around as if it's like taken over the necessity to be creative or something. It's like AI's now become creative. And I actually
Well,
think that that's a lie because the thing is that Chat GTP, and I'm going to give you an example of this, right? Because I've got it right here, right? So, in order for it to give you a story, you have to have the creativity to think up the conceptualization of what that story is going to be. So what we were doing was we were doing this like we had this idea that we do a story about the moon child, right? So we're going to do a children's story. So you just write in basically the keywords, all the keywords in relation to what you want this story to be about, right? So it's a children's story about the moon child. That's what we're calling it, or that's the basics of it, right? And we want to make this for 5 to 8 year olds. Which can also be spelled as 5 to 8, because that's a play on words. And we're just verbalizing here what's going through. This is a creative conversation. This is the kind of so it's our creativity that's pushing this in, and then Chat GTP is going to come up with a story based upon this. Now, the moon child was based upon the weather, the mood, and the high and low tide times. So the weather, how do you spell weather? Weather. The weather based on, sorry.
Just wanting to point out, there's that W, and the word reminds me of ether. Weather, ether, weather, eat here, eat her.
The ether, the
Oh, dear.
energy, the energy.
It reminds me of the ether, the weather, the word weather. I feel like it originated from ether.
Where is the moon? What phase?
Right now we have we just had all kinds of phases. But the eclipse yesterday, the solar eclipse yesterday was it followed the new moon in Libra. So sun and moon are in Libra right now. Well, probably by now the moon is in Scorpio.
It also led you and I to look at what the phase of the moon was when we were born. On the day we were born, what phase of the moon was. And we looked at the energy of that particular phase. And both you and I had a waxing, what was the middle word?
We're waning. We're in the
Waning.
We're in the just before the full moon stage. So as the moon fills up with wisdom, right? So I would say that the waning children are often the old souls.
Right.
Because they come with this tremendous amount of insight and a memory of being here before, from my point of view.
Okay, so I'm going to say, well, the moon phase, what the moon fills us with wisdom and creative talents. Okay, I'm just waffling here to this Chat GTP, right? So I've asked it to do that. I've asked it to make a children's story for 5 to 8 year olds, which can also be spelled as 5 to 8, based on the weather, the mood, the high and low tide times, the ether, the energy, where the moon is, what phase of the moon fills us with wisdom and creative talents. And bear in mind that 5 to 8 is also the solfeggio. I don't know whether I can spell that. SUL
SOLFEGGIO. So I'm not sure if it's right, but it's close.
Solfeggio. And it says sociology. Okay, I've got to do a spell check on that. I'll just copy it, and then, sorry for the waffling, paste it in here, and it should come up with something. Solfeggio frequencies. Okay, there you go. Solfeggio frequencies. So I'm going to copy that, and solfeggio frequency. I'm going to go back to chat. There you go. Back here. Go back. I sound like a duck. Solfeggio frequencies, and then I'm going to go 5 to 8 is also solfeggio frequency of love. 5 to 8 is actually the frequency that emanates love. So, of love. Now I'm going to enter what I've written there, and it's going to take about 30 seconds. And it's going to read, it's going to write an entire story for us, right?
And
and it'll be
Bless it.
lovely. And do you want me to read the story out now?
Please.
Or
Yes.
you just want me to copy and paste it and let people read it?
Oh, share with us a little bit of it at least, Kim. Please.
All right.
You're such a great reader. I love listening to you. And yeah, I'm curious to hear what they've come out with.
So the title is The Moonchild and the Song of Love. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between the rolling hills of a glistening river, there lived a curious child named Luna. Luna was like no other child in the village. She had a special connection with the moon, and this connection was not only just a matter of chance, it was woven into her very existence. And I see the word as existence as X-I-stence. So outside or, sorry. You see, Luna was a moon child. She was born on the night when the moon was full and the skies were clear. The villagers believed that children born under the full moon were gifted with extraordinary talents and a deep sense of love and wisdom. Luna, however, was special, even among the moon children, because her birth coincided with a rare and powerful event. The 520, I'm getting tingles when I read this. The 528th moonrise of her lifetime.
Amazing. What is that all about? Oh, the 528.
It's the
They put the 5
528. Because I said
moonrise
it,
of her life.
because I was saying base it on 528, which is the solfeggio frequency. But how could it be
Very
the moon child because her birth coincided with a rare and powerful event, the 528th moonrise of her lifetime? How could she coincide?
it doesn't cute, does it?
But okay, but it's a cool, like it could be of her mother's lifetime.
Good
That
start. It's a good place to you could edit from that and like the
yeah,
520 moonrise. Well, wow, what a great title.
yeah. So do you want me to carry on a little bit more?
Yes,
Every,
sure.
every evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Luna would eagerly rush to her favorite spot on the river, and she loved to watch the moonrise and listen to the soothing sound of the river's gentle current, and the moon's glow filled her with a sense of tranquility. And the village elders believed it was the solfeggio frequency of love at play.
Wow.
Isn't that lovely?
From an AI, maybe AI is not so bad after all. This
Yeah.
artificial intelligence. I mean, that's pretty useful when you think about it. But there's good and bad in everything. I can see content creators becoming a little bored,
Well,
because there's a
I'm
lot of
gonna
time
copy
on there
that. I'm
with
gonna
this kind
copy
of tool
that.
available.
I'm gonna copy all of that. In fact, I'm gonna copy what I wrote as well, because what we discovered with this the other night was you. I'm just gonna copy that and put it into a document so I've got it, because that's actually now could be a book in creation.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely.
Because it was my conception of all of that word mixed format that made AI come up with that particular concept, right? But then you
And your
can,
concept is original, so there it is again. It's a birthing of an original idea, the conception. Um, Hmm, the
so,
perception, the conception. We talked about sept before, but this is, I think it's really interesting because we know that our thoughts create. It is the conception of matter, right? Our
right.
thoughts create the
Yeah.
matter. What's the
Yeah.
matter? It's whatever we're thinking. So if we plug our thoughts into this
Hold.
tool,
What's the
it's
matter? You just said, what's
these,
the matter?
oh, right?
What?
Nothing is matter. Nothing.
Nothing's matter. What's the matter?
Nothing matters. No
Nothing
thing
matter.
matters.
No thing.
No thing matters. And so we come from no thing. And so we come from the thoughts. The thoughts
Yeah.
create. And when we put our creative energy into an artificial intelligence like this, and it goes on and then creates this elaborate story in less than 20 seconds, as we watched.
And then you can take the word solfeggio frequency of love at play, put that into
Yes,
a new chat GTP, create other related words relating to that, and get a whole new paragraph to put into there. And the
correct.
beauty of it is it's spelled correctly, it's phrased correctly. And if I was to say, I wish Luna to have a conversation with the river song about the self-hate. In fact, I'm going to do that. Right. I'm going to put a conversation in there. So,
This thing cannot perceive what you're creating, what you are conceptualizing. And I think that this is where we become
hope so.
harmonious. This is truly walking the middle path. So to take a high valued thought, like the 528 love frequency, and to plug it into the AI and see that, the story is pretty good. It's not like the AI here is here to mislead us. It's giving us a hit for everything that it can find under the 528 Solfeggio frequency. And the other words you set your criteria with.
So 528 love frequency, having a conversation with the river on a full moon about the flow of words and how words flow into making a gushing waterfall
There you go.
sensation. All right.
Well, how much fun is that, right? Oh my
All
goodness. You
right,
can
there you go. How many? It's so
story. Who
doing
needs
it,
books
right?
anymore? Books are, it's all Kindle and it's all in the cloud. It's the flood of information. People are still waiting for the waters, and it's not waters, it's info. This time it's air. We're
Hey,
in the age of air.
come on. Look at this 528 love frequency. Dear River, have you ever thought about the way the words flow just like your waters? The river with a gentle, soothing voice replied, Indeed, I have, dear friend. Words like waters of the river have a remarkable way of weaving stories, emotions, and knowledge. They can trickle softly like a stream or rush forward like an energy of a waterfall. But it's in the gushing waterfall of words that we often find the most captivating sensations. The 528 love frequency said, Tell me more about this sensation, River. How do words create gushing waterfalls of emotions? Words, like river currents, can start as simply trickling thoughts. They gain momentum just like a stream, growing wider as more words are added to them. When emotions and stories and experiences come together, the words flow faster and stronger, just like a river approaching a waterfall. 528 love frequency, that sounds enchanting. And what happens when the words reach the edge of the waterfall? Ah, the river answered. Magic truly happens at the edge of the waterfall as words cascade over that edge and they can take on a powerful, unstoppable force. Isn't it brilliant?
Brilliant. So now what do you want to do?
I mean, it's just blowing my mind. Like this makes a great book. I mean, it's the
It
river
does.
and the water flowing. And I mean, these are all sensations that we know about. We know the energy of life is all about being in the flow and not clinging to the rock, you know? If you're clinging to the rock to try to stop yourself going over the waterfall, then eventually you're going to tire and probably drown. Isn't that lovely that you can ask the 528 frequency to have a conversation with the river and talk about flow?
It's so like the possibilities are endless here. Asking this thing to create for us. I mean, my goodness, everything you can possibly imagine. When we were looking at it the other night, we were wondering how long before it creates images,
Oh, I know
based
that
on
that was the
how
other
long
thing.
before it's creating a graphic for us.
Like, how about we say, just verbally, right? Okay,
Yeah.
the setting is a rainforest. There's a waterfall there, and the 528 frequency comes through as a wave of energy, which is like a rainbow in color. And the wave of energy comes through and creates this like a heartbeat, but it's rainbow colored, and it integrated through and throughout the waterfall. And then there's some salmon swimming up the waterfall, jumping in and out of the picture and the image. And you know what I mean? Like that, actually, to be honest with you, I once saw salmon swimming up a waterfall in Scotland, and
All
it
right.
absolutely blew my mind. Have you ever seen
The,
that?
the spawning. This is what they do. They
Have you?
spawn and when they're about to die, they release all their eggs
It,
and they head upstream.
it blew my mind. Right, I'm
No
gonna.
wonder they die if they're going against the current, eh?
Oh, but going against the current, I mean, I've got a philosophy with that because I often saw myself as a salmon, you know. And when you read
Yes,
up on it, what actually happens is they're not swimming at the surface like most of the fish, they're going deep, which is an analogy for what you and I do, really. We go really,
it,
really, really deep, but then there's a
yes,
simplicity in the depth. You can swim against, imagine going deep into the ocean. It's much colder and it's much darker, but you're finding your own path. You're
that's
forging
beautiful.
your own way in the darkness. You're not depending upon the light to guide your way. You're going your own way.
Your instincts. You're following your instincts and your magnetic impulses.
Yeah. You know
Very
what?
cool. I love that analogy, Kim. You're so creative. And I think this thing truly is no match for you because it cannot possibly produce without that kind of concept. The creativity that you bring to it. Others will create something that is nothing like what you've just brought to our attention,
But it's
even though
not.
they're using the same tool, because they're not using the same force of creativity with which to create it with still.
It's
It might
still
be the
dependent upon the
oh,
individual.
yes, absolutely. I feel like it would be reading your energy, your not just your criteria, but the purpose behind the criteria,
And it,
like the flow of
and
criteria.
the one thing I want to clarify here is that I'm going to quote something that I quoted in my book, and I'll have to find my own website in order to quote this. I sent it to you the other day, and to find my own website, I have to go to YouTube, and I have to go to my home page, and then I have to go to, because I wrote a book a couple of years ago, and probably nobody knows this actually because I haven't really promoted it much. So if I go to my channel, and I'm going to go to, in my channel is a little, there you go, my website. So I'm going to go to my website, which is where I promote all my readings, but I never really finished it. Or so I'll actually give you a link to this when I'm finished, but it's not really finished. So maybe I
Well,
shouldn't.
I think you've got such a beautiful contact page there, Kim. And it's good that you're sharing this with your viewers because I think that you have a lot of followers that maybe don't know all of this about you. But it's hard
Yeah,
to promote ourselves, but like you have a lot of gifts and a lot to offer. And now at the age of 40, you became an artist too.
yeah, and I
You
didn't
know,
even know how I was doing that. So I published a
very
book,
creative.
and my book is, well, I can't remember where the link is. Hold on, I gotta go to, oh, my book. Here you go. That's another website, which I'll give you a link to too. But the paragraph I wanted to talk about was this. No, that's gone there. Where do I link to? Oh God, that me? That's not me. I obviously didn't never finished this website. All right, I'm going to finish this website. So where's my? How did I link to my other website? Did it say?
You can get Chat GPT to write a few things for you.
Oh
And do
yeah,
you see how easy it is to get like, life gets in the way. Next thing you know, it's like, oh right, I still have this to do. You know, life can be so full of distractions, but in 19 seconds you can have content galore.
Oh no. Through using my own creativity. So I'll have to find the link to my book. But I know I sent it to you the other day, this paragraph that I wanted to read to you. And the reason that I wanted to read it to you is because it isn't me that's creating this. I'm only a channel. It's only got to do with my capacity to hear love or to discern love, or it's not me that's doing this. It's not my creative. I've probably explained that really badly, but on my
I get
website, I'm gonna have to work on my website before I give you the link. But on my website, I did a passage about a channeling that I got. I woke up in the middle of the night and I had this channeling. There's a picture of the elephant. I had this
oh yeah.
channeling, and I sent it to you the other day. Anyway, I don't know. I don't want to rabbit on for too long, because I just end up looking for ages for something and I can't find it. So it's not meant to be, obviously. All right. I'm not gonna. Here you go. No, it's not. No, sorry. Basically, I got this message when I woke up one night, and it was telling me what the ego was. And it was telling me that the ego perceives itself as the creator, but actually it's not. That the individual isn't the creator, that without the source, it wouldn't even be possible. And that it's just our ego that perceives us as being the creator, but we're not. It's more like the morphogenic field works in unison with the creator to make that concept possible.
The ego is kind of like the resistance to me. It's the opposite of the flow of energy that I think really creates. The ego is kind of a destroyer energy.
I think the ego is essential from the point of view that even down to yours and our conversation about expectation, that without the ego, we wouldn't actually reach out. We wouldn't be reaching. We wouldn't be crawling towards the light. We wouldn't be attempting to shine, because the ego wants to think that in the perception of shining, that it's going to be special. It's going to be
Yes,
recognized, like this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Like, like the ego wants to think that we are unique and we are special. But actually, it's more like we are part of the universal specialness of everything. And if we can
great.
tap into that, being part of the universal specialness of everything, rather than thinking it's me individually that's actually coming up with these words. If it wasn't for
Gotcha.
you, I don't think I would be here having this conversation.
Well, likewise, I'd be sound asleep.
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock in the morning for you, and I've got you out of bed, but
Yeah, but it's so worth it. I love to get, I'm happy to have time with you and to philosophize about these things. But I love what you just said about, the ego. I think that there's a great amount of truth there.
mm,
Yeah, it felt right. It just the ego though is it's a resistant force, but again, it's that push pull. This is the polarity of the world that we're in. So the creator force is so great. We'd have to have something equally as powerful. Now we've been conditioned to sort of be in ego. And even with us promoting self-care and things like that, it's a bit ego driven when you think of it. It's like, oh, I'm going to put my needs ahead of everybody else's. Well, yeah, because you cannot pour from an empty cup, and you may make sacrifices along the way to support another person, But if you're doing that on a regular basis, you're going to burn out, and you can't give anything to anybody if you get yourself into that state. So I do think self-care is important, but it can become quite egotistical. And, in that state, then we wouldn't be creating, we'd be in a state of fear and lack, opposed to creation and abundance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like you
And
said, the ego will always say, oh, you can't. It'll never work.
And then yeah, exactly. And then the ego gets in there and says, who am I to think that I'm better than anybody else? And it'll push you down and say, you're not as good as this person or that person, or I don't
Like
I
the
don't
dual
have
self.
that. Hmm?
It's like the dual self.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
there's two of us,
Mm,
and that kind of makes sense. I mean, we have our dream version of us, and then our, here we are now version of us. So, I mean, it has to be two of everything in this realm, it seems. For
exactly.
everything that's good, there's bad, it depends on the perceiver.
All right. Now I'm gonna cut this session off, I think, because I don't know how long we've been rabbiting for, but it's been a long time, I think.
No, it's been fun. I enjoyed looking at Chat GPT with you. I think I can't get over how creative it is, how fast it is. Loved listening to Margie's story. How amazing. I mean, and her dad did that long before, we had the thought of creating in such great speed. What would he have said if he had these tools? What
Exactly.
novels might he have
Oh
written
my.
from that one short story
And
that he
then
gave to
and then
what is it, the cart driver?
she was telling me that the night cart man,
Night cart.
because she was telling me she's got a load of his poems somewhere in the house, and I said, oh, we'll have to dig them out. And she said, oh, they're not funny like that. And I went, no, it wouldn't matter. We'll just kind of like put the energy out there, put the whole thing
Well,
out
and
there.
I did do a little bit of numerology as we were getting connected, curious about Chat GPT, and what are those letters anyway? What do they represent? So I use a septenary cipher, which
Right.
is the letters A to M. Work on a scale. A is 1, 2 is B, all the way up to 7 is G, and then it slides down. So it only goes as high as 7, and then it slides down to 1 again. And so there's 2 rows like that. A to M, N to Z. So the letters are calculated using these 7 numbers. And the chat letters are 3617. GPT is 737. Those numbers separately, those digits add up to 17 for chat, and that's an 8. And then 737 for GPT adds up to 8. And I thought that was interesting. This device is known as an 88. And what is 8 and 8 is 16. 1 and 6 is 7. 7
But
is the number of creation. Here we are in a 7-year. And so that kind of wasn't a great big surprise to me. But 88 to me is a number of infinity.
yeah,
It's
go into
a
that. Yeah.
number of abundance. It's a number of wealth, strength, justice. 8 represents a lot of really powerful. So it'll be interesting. Like, I'd be curious to hear if anybody else has got any insight into that pattern of numbering. 88, what else does it show us? I also looked at the narcissist, the word, and because I do think it's a bit overused. And we've got the letter N. And did we not recently talk about the letter N on the wheel? I found, and I might have dreamt that, Kim, but the letter N on the wheel. So if you put the N in the circle, I found that interesting because it's a bit
You
like a
know,
sine wave.
you
It's a
never
bit like
talked about if what
up
I'd have
and
to do, let me bring up the Yule, wheel. So we can
yeah.
talk about that a little bit, because we haven't talked about that, and it's actually a really interesting concept because the Yule
I like
wheel.
the letter N in here
All
for
right.
the word narcissist.
So the Yule wheel. Can I just interrupt for a minute to talk
Yes,
about this?
go
Right.
ahead. Yes,
This is this wheel here, right? And then
fast. I thought
we've got
you need
this.
more time.
We've we've got this. Uh, there you go. So we've
That's
got this wheel,
beautiful.
right? So I've got this book here, I'll show you this book. This book's called the Oera Linda Book, and it's one of the things that Ginger and I have in common in relation to being quite interested in. I'll give you a link to it in the chat at the end. But basically, in this book, and this absolutely blew my mind. I don't know whether I can find it by clicking through it. But this book is written in one language on one side, and it's translated into the English on the other side. It's like this side is in Old English, and this side is in English. So it's written in both languages. And they talk about the origin of the alphabet from their perspective. And one of the things that Ginger and I have often talked about is if you're claiming that you've created something, then in that claim, within that claim, you can actually talk about where the inception came from. Like, say, for instance, I'm writing a book about mowing the lawn, and the inception came from mowing the lawn this morning. So whilst I was out mowing the lawn this morning, this happened or that happened. But the thing is that I can actually remember the process of thought behind the actual creative experience. So anybody that tells you that they created something would be able to tell you where the thoughts came from. And
Yes.
with historical data, it says that the alphabet was actually created by the Phoenicians, which is, I mean, I can go on for hours about the Phoenicians because I actually have all
The
these
alpha beta. The
really,
alpha beta.
but anyway, in this book, they talk about the alphabet coming from the Yule wheel, which is relative because they're actually saying it came like the letter C was here and the letter D is here or here and the letter X is here. And they're saying that the alphabet came from them following that Yule wheel. But the Phoenicians don't make any claim like that. They say they created the alphabet, but they imported it from China or something. It's like a completely different story, but there's no
Phonations, the phony, it's phony.
it's phony.
It's phony. It's
And
phony. There's a lot of phony history.
yeah, and then you've also got the Phoenicians, the phone, the PHONE. And it's very interesting that our consciousness is currently set around the phone when these guys are proclaiming that they actually created the alphabet. And these are the phone people, these are the Phoenicians. I mean, it's a bit conspiratorial, this side of it. So I'm not really going to go into it too much, but I've got a lot of very strange thoughts about all of that.
And Phoenix,
Yeah.
Phoenician, Phoenix,
Yeah.
Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, Arizona.
All right. And
I mean,
arise,
lots to play
eyes,
with there.
arise, eyes, the
And
eyes, Donna, in the
take a
zone, the
closer look at
eyes.
Arizona today. I know somebody there right now, so sending good thoughts to everybody in Arizona. But the word narcissist, going back to the gematria for a minute, Kim, the N, so that fits on there, does it not? Or no? See, it doesn't fit on there. To me, the N is a very disruptive. How would you fit the letter N in here? You can't. I
Well,
don't see it.
you can. I mean,
You can
it's like
draw it
it's
in
no,
there, but it does
it's in there. It's actually a C on its side.
the N?
The N's a bridge. Or the M.
Oh, I see.
Can you
Like a
see
small, like a lowercase N.
like an upside down V
Oh,
or
I
a
see.
lowercase n, like going across here, the N.
Yeah,
And then the M could be like not like the M
yeah.
is there, and then the N is
Okay.
actually there.
But
It's a little bit more
I
pointy.
see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. So the N arc, ARC, arc assist, the narcissist. Now I made it into assist. I changed one letter just because it kind of sounds like narcissist. Narcissist might not be how we spell it, but it sure sounds like it. So what is the NARC assisting? What is the NARC assisting? How is it useful? Adds up to 45, which is a 9. That's the number of the hermit. So it's the wisest of them all. And it's also, from my point of view, Mars is associated with the number 9. So Mars can be warlike. It can also be quite creative. So the NARC assist, the narcissist, is all of that, I think.
There's one other thing I wanted to mention about this Yule wheel is that all of the numbers are actually in there as well. Like
Yes,
1,
that's right.
2, 3 is here and here, and then 4 is here, and then 5 is here. 5 is anyway. All the numbers are in it too. So
Yes.
numbers from 1 to 10, and let alphabet. You've got to be a little bit imaginative with an A. That's all, because the A is actually
Everything is lines and curves. You
yeah.
know, there's got to be a few letters that are not there. Like, because we had originally 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. And then, you know, so, but you can clearly see the Y.
Yeah.
Why do they say sometimes Y, A, E, I, O, and sometimes Y? Why do they say we didn't always have vowels to the electric gods?
Do you know what? Do you know what amazes me? Is they, and again, I don't want to get onto the Jewish thing, but in
No,
the Jewish Bible, apparently of Jewish Kabbalah, there isn't any, or Quran, sorry, there isn't any vowels, right? And
correct.
then if you go, okay, well, in our language we have vowels, but if you read the vowels out, they say A, E, I, O, U.
Yes, that's right. AE, again, those letters used to be connected once upon a time. In our old English language, we would have put those two letters together, and that's how we spelled the word ether. AE, which is not two separate letters, but rather one. And AETHER is how you spell ether. So back to that again. And there's the first two vowels of the AEIOU.
But think about the concept of like we've got the Quran, which is a Jewish version, and then without that, they don't know anybody. And then suddenly the rest of the world has got AEIOU. What
That's
what is
right.
that about? Why do I owe what? Who do I owe what?
I'd like to read the Quran, but I'd like to make sure that I get a most reliable copy, and I don't know how to do that. There's so many versions of all the books. Like, how do you get, like, what is the most reliable translated copy?
I don't think females are technically supposed to read the Quran, are they?
Females are not supposed to. Well, I'm sure they don't want us to read it, because if you actually listen to David Ewing Jr. It is only 4 a.m. here. David Ewing Jr., if you listen to him talk about it, he'll explain that there's only 400 words there. And most of the stories that he's sharing sound a lot like the Oera Linda book. So I think it would really speak to you, Kim. Like I mean, I'm sure that there's parts in there that have been mistranslated. And yeah, it's something that I'm not as familiar with as I'd like to be. I intend to be at this, but so for now, I'm speaking kind of blind.
By the
But I am
way,
very curious on his, based on his analogies of what this book is actually speaking. So I'm listening to what he has to say, and I intend to get my hands on a good copy of this book myself.
okay, but I just want to say on the notation of the Oera Linda book, one of the reasons it's been discredited, and you can look up as much information you like as to why they discredited that that manuscript, but it seems that they only discredited a very small portion of it. because a
Mm.
small portion of it was rewritten in later ink because it got wet. And then the rest of the book they haven't discredited. They've only discredited this, I don't know, 20 pages or something. And then they don't mention the rest of it. They just mention the bit that got wet and the fact that that ink is not dated to be 13th century, but the original ink is dated to be 13th century.
Well,
And
there's many renditions of it. The story was told verbally. You know, it was written down, but it was also the families were encouraged to memorize
right,
the content, because
right.
they knew that this was their history that was being wiped out.
So you and I have never made a video about that because that book, in the world that we live in, it's so, it could open up the world to so much debate. And we're not looking at, I'm not looking at somebody by a classification like a color of their skin or I think all of that's governmente. I think all of that is governing us towards the idea of separation. And I think
And if
that
we took this, I agree. And if we took this beautiful picture of the wheel here and put it on something really toxic, people would start to associate this beautiful picture of the wheel with something really toxic. And so we've been told that some of the images that are quite natural in our experience are toxic, such as the symbol of Polaris, the North Star. It appears in ancient texts and it looks like a swastika. And it's immediately people will be revolted by that because of our perception of what that symbol now means. But it's through sheer propaganda, you know, it's the pole star. It's symbolic of the four seasons, and we witness as the Big Dipper, the Great Bear, turns. Canis Majoris, sorry, turns. Is it that one? Yeah. Anyway, that star, the Big Dipper, most of us can find that because it's enormous and it occupies space. From my perception, off into the northern sky. And it's the northern star. It's the brightest star in the sky,
so
and it's always right in the middle of it all. The dipper spins around it and leaves a swastika trail. If you look at ancient symbols of swastika, you'll see the pattern of the Big Dipper in the sky above. But this has obviously been propagandized for us to associate it with something really evil and dark. And that's, this image came out long before the stories from the 40s.
Yeah. I think, as I said, at the moment, there is so much, I'm going to say that word again, obfuscation. There is
Correct.
so much data on any given subject that the second that you go down any rabbit hole on any given subject, because we've basically been off on our own doing studies for donkey's years.
I can only tell you that I see it. I
Yeah.
can see it turning in the sky as the seasons shift, it shifts. I can draw it based on what I can see with my own two eyes.
Yeah.
It's not about what I'm reading.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of other people that have seen it. And these are ancient images that have been depicted as swastikas. Now we call them swastikas. I don't think I'd be able to bring one up for you, but if you search for ancient swastika, you'll find probably boatloads of images that portray it this way.
In a
But it's a dangerous topic because of people's perception. It's back to the Oera Linda, right?
Exactly.
Because but the content of the story, for me, it's a recipe for freedom. If you want to read, like, I think that we have at least, basically a basic groundwork. What is it that we need in our communities? And I see it as once upon a time we lived comfortably, and we were kind and good to one another, and we lived off of the land, and we didn't have these conflicts that we now do. So I do think that with learning about these other perceptions, having an open mind, it gives us an opportunity to expand our potential. You know, who are we? And as we delve into the possibility that, you know, maybe Alice was on a completely different trip than the rest of us when she went down her rabbit hole, but maybe not. Maybe we're all perceiving it the same. So I think it's important to talk about it. But I can see why, like, I'm a little reluctant to go there too.
Yeah, it's only that it's a them and us story. I mean, it's basically about an Aryan people and how
We
they,
are the Aryan people.
yeah,
And
but
for me, that translates to the Irish. Once upon a time, I think that the words similarly. So the Aryan, the Ireland, Aryan, it sounds similar to me. So I have no evidence, but it's just a feeling that I have
I
that
know.
there's a connection there. And, you know, a great amount of folklore comes from that area. So what is that all about? Why has the story
Oh,
been altered?
for years and years and years, I've done independent research before the internet became so complex. And one of the things that always intrigued me was old maps. I was always
Yes,
intrigued by that, even since being a child, you know. I could sit down with a map and just study it. And then about 15 years ago, this I was looking at these maps done by let's see, I've got a whole folder called maps somewhere on my computer. I don't know where it is. But I'll just have a look and see if it's here.
sure.
So on the old maps, there you go, folder there. So if I look at this particular Friesland, okay, here you go. So this is on.
I'll be back.
Okay,
I'm right here, Kim, just letting a doggy outside. I'm not the only one up in the middle of the night.
okay. So these are the old maps, and the old maps were you know, this is maps basically pre 16th century, so it's like 1580 and before. And on a lot of these maps, here is Scotland, here is Iceland, and then here's Greenland, and then they've got this little island here called Friesland. And when I first
Correct.
of all came across it, I found it fascinating because I'm like, what's this Friesland? Where did this Friesland? Where did it go? How come there's no mention of it? And then I did a research. This is back in, oh, I don't know, 2005, when the internet was actually quite new. And I did research into Friesland, and everything drew me to the current day Friesland. All of the data, the current day Friesland is the northern part of Holland. And apparently these people have they live in a different way. They live more like the Amish. Apparently they have a
Yes.
more simplistic life. They've got a slightly different language. They speak more Old English than Dutch. It's like a combination of English and Dutch apparently, and it's a place that is along the coast of sort of northern Germany, along Holland, through Belgium, through all that coastline. And apparently the Frieslandish people settled along the coast there, and there's a section of it that's called Friesland. So when you do data research these days, it doesn't bring you any reference whatsoever up to this little island in, I'll show you a bigger map. There's Friesland again. This is Greenland, part Della Grundland. This is Greenland, and this is Friesland or Frieslandia. So over the years, I've actually kept the so that's Europe. There's Europe. There's Spain, France, England, Ireland. There's Friesland there. There's a great big continent in the middle of the Northern Atlantic Ocean. And I've
I
seen,
always think of the Frisian horses. Is that a
yeah,
thing? Why is the
yeah.
word Frisian?
Like,
My
did
grandma,
they come from there?
I
So
have to wonder.
it was on a lot of maps. And the Friesland, I'm going to bring up a picture of a Friesland horse for those of you that they got the beautiful horses. They're black in color, and
Oh,
they've got a beautiful long mane. They're really beautiful horse, like really long. They're really weird looking because they've got a really, really long sort of curly mane, like a curly look about them.
I feel like
These,
they're highly intelligent. It was
yeah,
they're
look at this.
used in a movie Black
Look at
Beauty,
that.
and they just have a different energy around them.
And they call it the
That
Icelandic horse. So
yeah.
this, I mean, this place, this Frieslandia that I'm talking about with those maps and showing you the pictures of the maps, um, I don't want to go in too deeply. It's a really big story, this, but I studied it for a number of years and I came across the most incredible rabbit hole of information, none of which can be proven, but it actually linked back to Rosslyn Chapel. And
Oh, I'm not surprised.
there was this whole trail back to Rosslyn Chapel, and then I ended up um, doing. Have you ever heard of the music of the spheres and the Rosslyn Chapel and the um, Rosslyn Motet?
I haven't heard of the. What do you mean by the motet?
Okay, so there's
That
this.
part I'm not familiar with.
So there's this guy, right? Here you go. It's a music cipher, right? So there's this guy, and he was doing this. He's called Stuart Mitchell, and his father was called T.J. Mitchell, and T.J. Mitchell was discovering and doing a study on the carved paintings inside of Rosslyn Chapel, and his son was called Stuart Mitchell, and he was doing a music degree in in Edinburgh University based upon somatics. So the pattern that salt makes um, on a on a piece of metal, if you resonate a sound through it, so it's somatics. So his son was studying somatics, and his father was doing a study in the Rosslyn Chapel, and he got his son to come to the Rosslyn Chapel, and his son went, wow, that's actually music. That's actually a musical piece on the ceiling there. So his
Wow,
son went away and actually wrote a whole, what he called the Rosslyn Motet, which is a whole musical score based upon the notes on the ceiling of the Rosslyn Chapel.
that's
And
amazing.
and Stuart Mitchell's dead now. He died young. He was the son and he died young. Died maybe.
I often wonder if we were to dissect the sky map a little different, would it have a specific sound? Like, would we be able to play it on the musical scale?
Can I
I had
just
an interesting
can I just
experience the other day. Yeah,
okay?
go on, Kim.
Can I just
Go
share
on.
a bit of this song for you?
Oh, yeah, I'd love
Want to
to
hear
hear
it?
it.
Okay, I'm just going to
Yeah.
play it for a couple of seconds because of copyright issues, but I'll give you a link to it anyway. But I'm just going to
Yeah.
play it for a couple of seconds, right? Isn't that beautiful?
Love the sounds. Really beautiful.
So,
I'd like to see what it does to our water. What are the somatics of it? That's very cool. Love it. I had my eyes closed. So I wasn't really watching. I was listening.
okay, well, I'll give you a link to that as well. So, um, but I mean that all tied into. I'm sorry, I hijacked you on what you were
Well,
saying there.
well, I
What's that?
had a very similar experience. So not really. It's like we're riding the same wave. I the tub the other day, and I'll often turn some soothing music on, lower the lights, just try and wash it off, relax, Epsom salts, soak it off, right? And but this time I said, why am I listening to music? Why don't I just sit in silence? And I just was drawn to sitting silently. And in that silence, I found myself making, like, I thought, sing a song underwater. So as I lay with my head underwater, I thought, I wonder what it would sound like. So I did the musical scale, knowing that where sometimes we can detect where there's an imbalance based on singing do re mi. So the musical scale attaches to each of our chakras, and if you're singing out of tune, then it denotes an imbalance. And so it's a good place to start when trying to find out what's going on. And so I lay in the tub and I decided to do this with my head underwater. It was quite an interesting experience because the sound is quite different.
Mm.
And it sounded more like this. This is why I closed my eyes when you're playing the video. It sounded more like that, like a very different pitch. And I at one point felt like a frog. I thought, this is what a frog feels like, the reverberation of water all around me. I mean, I do highly recommend, if you have never done that, I mean, it sounds kind of peculiar, but I highly recommend exploring that. Do re mi in the tub with your head down under,
Sweet.
and tell me
Don't-
how it feels. For me, it was very clearing. It helped to identify,
I
and
woke up.
but I like a
I woke.
frog.
I woke up 2 days ago singing do re mi. Just
Oh
to.
my goodness! It was just a couple of days ago I did this, Kim. See, you and I are often on the same wave.
So, just one other thing I want to interrupt you here because certain people in this world are very talented, right? And I had a
Yes.
bit of a story with
I mean, that was amazing. Look at me
Margie,
go.
Margie next door, right? She started singing the other day, right? Because she's actually telling me this other funny story, and I was here for this, and it was really funny. But I'm sitting at my house one day, and suddenly we hear an opera singer, and there's a guy, and he's singing the same opera over and I can't remember what it was. He's singing the same opera over and over and again. And Margie was singing it the other day because of this, telling me the story about the opera singer. But I was actually here in the house when this event happened. But I couldn't believe the perfection of her pitch.
Mm.
I'm like, whoa, you sing, you an artist, I mean, like, you're an artist, you're a creator, you're a brilliant artist. Wow, and you can sing as well. Anyway, but the story she was telling was we're all sat at home and it's a Sunday afternoon and this song or this guy singing opera, beautiful voice. And I'm going like, where's that? Why is that guy singing opera and where's it coming from? And at the back of our house, because they're neighbors to me, we've got a rainforest running along the back of here. And there was a guy in the rainforest behind us practicing opera. And he decided to come on the boat from the mainland. He decided to jump on this boat and come to this island just to practice opera in a place where he could have complete quiet, where there's no sound of traffic or no interference of normal. So he decided
He
to,
wanted sound bathe. He wanted to give his sound to a special place, and he
and,
wanted to hear his sound in that space.
but we're all sitting here flabbergasted because he ended up going actually onto Eric's land and actually into the back of Eric's garden or back of Eric's yard to do it. But all of us are sitting there going, where's that noise coming from? What the, where, what's that? It's a guy singing opera, really loudly, like real. I mean, I'm even not even going to attempt to do it because I really can't sing. But
He had to let it go. How
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Singing, so like the an esoteric level, what was that all about, Kim? Sing your song, right? Sing it
Mm,
loud.
mm.
No matter if anybody else likes your song, it's your song, sing it. He felt like he needed to escape into a very quiet space, obviously.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Wish I'd recorded it. It was beautiful. And she was just talking about that story yesterday and she started to sing and her voice was beautiful. And I'm going, whoa, woman, you are so talented. How do you get one body, a person that's got so much talent and creativity inside of them? Like, what does that mean? What does that even
Right?
mean? That
I
that
think it's everything to do with our chart and
is,
opportunities that present themselves because of our vibration.
but
So our
is it
chart sort of vibration and our opportunities.
but is it an expression of the soul? Is it the is it the more refined the soul becomes, the more keys you get towards the expression of perfection?
Well,
The
with
more
manifestation, you would say, you have to let go in order to make room for more. So it's important with manifestation, it's important to purge, let go, and allow it to flow to you, right? But so that's, I think, a little bit of what that is, Kim.
But I mean,
It
you're a really, really big believer in, like I said before, I'm a crap singer. You would pull me up on that usually and say, never say that about yourself, because you're
I
the one of
don't
these
say that.
people that say, I'm actually a very good singer. I just haven't got the key yet.
I haven't done it yet.
I haven't done it yet. But my I've got a beautiful voice. I just haven't sung with it yet.
Yes, I have a beautiful voice. I love my voice. I love my sound, because then your sound improves. I love my wrinkles as your wrinkles vanish. The goddess never ages because we know these secrets. You know, I love every curve. I love every pound. I love every gray hair, because it's a part of who I am in this moment. And
Can
to
I
hold any kind of animosity towards myself,
can,
what?
can I tell you a story, another story about Marjorie Rainbow next door? Um,
Yes.
but one day I'm over there and she's talking about she'd been to New Zealand and she was visiting her sister, and her sister had had a stroke, and
I'm reading.
her sister had stroke, and the only thing she'd lost everything. She'd lost capacity for her whole body, and the only thing that she could do was move one finger and blink.
Oh,
That was the only movement that she had left. And Margie and Eric had gone over there, and she said that my sister was a really, really colorful character, and she spent a lot of her younger years on the stage. And she, at one stage, I think she went to New York, and she was a chorus girl. And one of her favorite shows that she did was blah blah blah, and she's telling the story about this favorite show. And then she said, when I was there in New Zealand, my sister hadn't, because she'd had this stroke and she hadn't spoken for um I don't know, months or something. And she started to sing this favorite song, this as that she sang as a chorus girl. And I can't remember whether she told me that her sister sang along with her and could sing with her, or that
oh,
she was crying and there were tears running down her face, her sister's face. Um, but she obviously touched her. And she also got a confirmation in that her sister knew she was there. That
it's beautiful.
she knew that Margie was there with her. And I mean, I guess people in this world would have to have that level of trauma to understand that, to truly understand that, somebody that's been in a coma for 6 months and suddenly you touch them by doing something.
Well, I do think, again, I have a great amount of faith in the body's ability to perceive. And it's an energy, like back to the clairs, we have the visual, audio, feeling, we're all over it. And to say that a person is no longer able to perceive is extraordinary to me, because I think that we're always able to perceive until we die, and then this avatar just ceases to exist, and we go on perceiving as a spirit being. So to think that there's no spirit present, I could see that spirit would vacate that space, but I don't think that the spirit is detached from that avatar completely until death.
No, me neither. I
No, it
I
doesn't
don't
make
think
sense.
so. I mean,
Like
you
a
could talk,
deep
talk,
state of recovery.
could talk
Not even
about
about recovery.
profound last words. I mean, we could do a whole show on profound last words that people have spoken. But my mother's last words were, "Make sure you pay the rates." Very profound.
Wow.
Make sure you pay the
Wow.
rates on Tuesday. Okay. All right. I'm really going to cut it off there. I've got no idea how long we've been talking for, but I actually
We'll
think
watch
that
the.
one of the best videos you and I have ever done. Oh, it
I
feels
agree.
like
I
it.
loved the flow. We covered a lot of really good stuff, especially, Chat GPT, touching on the clairs. We could really dive in and probably, if we could stay with one thing, we could have done dozens of shows, but we did it all in this very short time, if you look at it, Kim. And there's a lot there to explore. So I think it was a good video also.
I reckon you could do a great child's book on the clairs. A great child's book on, how would a 5-year-old interpret clairvoyant? Can you tell me what a 5-year-old version of clairvoyancy would be?
What's it like for a 5-year-old who is clairvoyant in a world of people who are not?
Well, like, okay, let's type that in as a closing note. Let's type that in and
Because
see
we
where it
don't need to wait
goes. Can you hold
to have
on to
that done.
that one? Because I'm gonna have to get you to repeat that when I find it. Where is it?
Yeah. Well, that's what I think about that
It
kind of
is.
thing a lot.
So
Because
what did
I
you
think a
say?
lot
Say
of
that again. Say that again.
it like to have all these clear abilities on high, turned up high as a 5-year-old in a
What
world where nobody else is able to perceive what you're perceiving.
what can you ask me the question again so I can type it in here though? What is it like to be a 5-year-old that
5-year-old what do we call it? Clairvoyant,
clairvoyant?
a world of non-clairvoyance, in a world of people who can't see.
What is it like being a 5-year-old clairvoyant in a world where people are not clairvoyant? Alright. It's
And then it's
generating.
endless.
I'll read this out to you when it does it.
Or write a story, I guess, may have been better. What's it like? Write a story. It's such an interesting tool.
It gives you an insight as to whether AI is on these subjects. Okay, it's done it. Hold on, where is it? Here it is. There you go. Oh, it's done a dot format. Being a
Okay, because we didn't
5-year-old, you would
worry,
feel
did we?
different. There would be
Yeah.
confusion as fear. As a young child, you might only not understand your clairvoyant abilities. You could have visions, dreams, or insights and seem unusual, even frightening. It's essential for parents and caregivers to provide guidance and support to help you make sense of these experiences. You might have difficulty expressing your insights. I mean, you could do a book for 5-year-old clairvoyance based
Well,
upon
and
this
I think it's
information.
important. It's a very important thing for us to do at this time because, well, obviously this thing can do it quickly, but I don't feel that there's a lot of material, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't feel that there's a lot of books or material already available for youngsters that are on this path, and you might be in that situation. So it would educate not only the child as they're reading or being read to, reading to the child. It would be very helpful, I think, in order to, in a way to sort of create common ground where I can at least try to perceive where you're coming from.
I know what I'm going to be doing the rest of the week. I'm going to be publishing 5 books.
Yeah.
Between now and next Monday. I'm not going to be
I'll see
around,
you.
right? I'm going to be writing
Yeah.
and publishing 5 books, and I'll give you the titles
Okay.
of all of them next week. And I'm just waiting for the graphics experience to catch up, so they
Well,
can have
I feel
graphic
like
representation.
I just feel like I'm dreaming because I think that that is our most important, Kim. Like we started with, it's about being in a state of creation, right? You know, it's so important for us to stay creative, use those, what else can I do? Stay curious, and creative, and authentic, always authentic, no masks. Just be you.
All right.
Love it.
I'm going to cut you off because we're going to have to write a synopsis of this, and it's going to go all over the place because we've talked about a lot of things tonight. So,
Do our best.
thank you so much for staying up half the night and talking
Oh,
about
it's my
this stuff.
pleasure.
It was really
Thanks
cool.
for
All
thanks for
right.
sharing, Kim. It's always a pleasure.
And thank you for the audience. And any questions, as usual, or discussion you want to have about anything that we've talked about, feel free to comment. And thank you for listening. And see you soon. I'm gonna have to. There you go. Stop share. And bye.
Bye.